Okay, everybody, this is Joseph P. Farrell with news and views from the Nefarium on Thursday, May 22nd, 2014. A brief comment. A lot of you sent me emails and put comments on the YouTube page. I missed last week because I was sick, and you can tell I'm still kind of struggling through the end of this. Uh, I had this crud that was going around and I simply wasn't able to talk very well, especially last Thursday. And I want to thank everybody that sent well wishes and all of their favorite home remedies and everything to me, and prayers. Certainly, they helped. I'm still plugged up. Um, I have sinus problems that I've had since I was born, and whenever I get something like this, it affects me a little bit more strongly than it does most people due to some problems that are kind of a personal nature. But anyway, I want to thank everybody for the prayers, the well wishes, the donations, even that some of you made. I do appreciate all of that always. And it was a busy week. And I want to talk about the Pope. My usual high octane speculation, only in this case, it might be high pontifical octane speculation because the Vatican continues to make news regarding space and aliens. And I've been pursuing this idea. For those of you unaware of it, or for those of you who don't read the written blogs, on my written blogs, I've been pursuing this idea that the Vatican has either been recruited or is carefully, gradually preparing the ground for a possible revelation or disclosure, if you will, of extraterrestrials. Now, why do I say that? If you turn back history to the Middle Ages, as I detail in my new book that's coming out, it's very clear that the European elite, for at least a couple of centuries, knew about the existence of the New World. The problem was how to get everybody on board and leak the information and do so in such a way that would not cause cultural upheaval and, more importantly, economic upheaval. And when you read the Vatican's role in how this was eventually done, it was done very carefully, very deliberately, very precisely. And that looks to me, using the example of history, like what might be going on with these recent pronouncements by the Pope. And I want to spend some time with this because I think this is giving us a clue as not only to the direction that things are going to take vis-a-vis this issue in the future, but it's going to be a clue about the next 100 or so years of development within Roman Catholic theology. All right, for those of you who are church watchers, this is important stuff. All right. Now, let me start with an article from the United Kingdom's Guardian newspaper in an online article that was posted on May 14th, just 8 days ago. In other words, a little bit over a week. The headline says, "The Pope has said he would baptize a Martian, but would they want our religions?" Unquote. Now, the first paragraph of this is setting up the claim that the Pope made, but I want to skip down in this article a little bit to put it into context because these remarks were made in the year 2008 by a Vatican chief astronomer, Jose Gabriel Funes, all right, or Funes, and I apologize to my Spanish listeners. I never learned how to speak Spanish, so if my pronunciation is off, I do apologize. But Senor Funes said, quote, "The Vatican has already covered the angles." This is the UK Guardian. In 2008, its chief astronomer, Jose Gabriel Funes, publicly accepted there could be life on other planets. Quote, "Why can't we speak of a brother extraterrestrial?" he said. "It would still be part of creation." Unquote. "Aliens might even be closer to God than us," Funes suggested, "and humans could be the lost sheep of the universe. In other words, alien visitors might well have a more advanced religion than ours. Rather than baptizing them, we might want to convert to their faith, unquote. Now, that remark is important because it set off or set the tone for the theological debate that began to be heard, whispered about in the Vatican. And as a matter of fact, this theological debate has been going on, if you know theological history, for quite some time, centuries as a matter of fact. But it really began to take off in the 1950s, in the post-war era, with the UFO craze, with the flying saucer flaps that began to be observed all over the world and in great numbers. And this triggered theological debates within Roman Catholicism. The Anglican uh, theologian and an apologist by the name of C.S. Lewis talked about this, as did many of his friends. It was a hot topic in theology. There were basically two schools. One school said that the incarnation was only due to the fall. We only have data about the fall of man. We can't assume anybody that we encounter out there would be fallen and therefore would need our religion and therefore need baptism. The other view, the traditional view, is that the fall is a cosmic event. It affected the universe, not just mankind, and therefore anybody else out there in some way is affected by the fall of man, because the fall of man is in turn a consequence of the fall of Lucifer, and that was truly a cosmic event. All right, that's the context. Now, Funes comes along, and he's obviously leaning toward the quote-unquote more liberal view. Now, it's in that context I want you to listen carefully to the remarks reported recently by Pope Francis, all right? Because he's now weighed in. And I did talk about this briefly in a blog last week. But there's more to come here, folks. And this is where the high-octane speculation comes in. The first paragraph of the Guardian article reads this way. Quote, do aliens believe in God? Did aliens create God? Did God create aliens? Is God in fact an alien? Religion and extraterrestrial beliefs don't tend to go together. Well, nonsense. They do tend to go together, but the problem is, how are you going to understand that conjunction? And that's the whole baptism question. It was something of a surprise when Pope Francis himself waded in on the debate this Tuesday. Quote, if an expedition of Martians arrives, and some of them come to us, and if one of them says, quote, me, I want to be baptized, unquote, what would happen? Unquote. The pontiff jokingly speculated during Tuesday morning's Mass. The Church turns no one away, he confirmed, not even extraterrestrials. Excuse me. Now, listen to that very carefully. The Pope is not talking in terms of a generalized extraterrestrial, and I think there may be some significance to this fact. He's talking specifically about Martians. In other words, he's talking about something in our own celestial neighborhood, not something intergalactic from thousands of light years away. He's talking about something in our neighborhood, and I think that's a significant development. You have to understand what Romanità is, all right? This is the Vatican way of always speaking very carefully and diplomatically. You don't reach that position in the oldest political chancery operative in the world with the most experience by being loose with your lips, all right? So in other words, when the Pope says something like this, I tend to sit up and take notice. I think it's significant, all right? And it's significant because he's talking about something in our own celestial neighborhood. But more importantly, putting it into the context of Funes' remarks, what he's saying is, this is the traditional way. This is the traditional teaching, and we're going to stick by it. In other words, the explanation comes with a recent appearance by Guy Consolmagno at Georgetown University. Now, who's Guy Consolmagno? This article appeared in the internet online in an article in the Capitol entitled Vatican Astronomer Who Would Baptize Aliens Speaks to Georgetown. This was a commencement address within the same week that Pope Francis is talking about baptizing aliens. This is a commencement address at a major American Catholic university from a Vatican astronomer. In other words, this isn't coincidence. The Vatican is definitely sending out messages. And in this case, I want you to listen very carefully to two paragraphs in this article summing up what Consolmagno said. All right. Quote, the scientist joked about meeting of extraterrestrials, but he also urged Georgetown grads to leave the university prepared to engage the world outside, wherever aliens might come from. Quote, there are a lot of aliens out there, not just people who went to Syracuse or Notre Dame, unquote, Consolmagno said. Quote, does what you learned here cut any ice with them? Are you prepared to survive the encounter? Much less, on occasion, baptize them into your way of thinking, unquote. And note the two phrases that are very carefully, in my opinion, again, chosen. Survive the encounter and baptize them into your way of thinking. Now, that's the clue right there that the Vatican is telegraphing, first from the Pope, yeah, we would baptize aliens. And secondly, Martians close to the neighborhood. We don't know where they come from. Would we survive the encounter? And are you prepared to convert them? All right. Now, this is exactly the same debate, if we turn the clock back 500 years, that was had 500 years ago. And at that time, the church, be it Protestant or Roman Catholic, decided, yeah, we need to baptize these people. Now, I'm going to suggest to you that what's really going on here is a form of religious imperialism. And that bodes for the future development of any potential contact that humanity might have with a non-human civilization or culture. In other words, they're signaling the same cosmology. They're signaling the same political agenda is in play and will be in play, at least as far as the Vatican is concerned, as was in play during the European discovery and colonization of the New World. These are savages. We have to convert them to our way of doing things, to our way of thinking, in other words, to our culture. And folks, that is a clear announcement of an imperialistic agenda. All right. It's an announcement of, in a very subtle way, of an agenda of conquest, like it or not. And I suspect that what this means is over the next century or so, we're going to, if we keep watching the Vatican, if we keep watching the Latin Church, and by implication some of the Eastern churches, we're going to see this debate spread. And we're going to see it, particularly in the Vatican's case, as a kind of an updated version of papal encyclicals like Boniface VIII's Unum Sanctum in the 13th century and so on, that are clear articulations of papal claims as a global, all-encompassing world claim. Those claims are going to be updated, and this is what I suspect is really behind this agenda. They're updating the papal claims, and they're going to be extended now cosmically via the extension of baptism to any ETs or encountered aliens that might be found out there. This is a clear announcement of an imperialistic agenda, folks, and that should give everyone pause. And that is my high-octane speculation for the week, and I want to thank everybody again for the prayers, the donations, all the articles you sent me. I've got a pile of articles so steep to go through this week and prepare for the blogs. But anyway, thank you everybody for the prayers. I'll see you on the flip side, and God bless. Bye-bye.